Melinda grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania. One summer, she learned a powerful lesson about gratitude. "Melinda, where are you?" called her mother. She was waiting in the garden, ready to plant seeds. Melinda was in the living room reading a book. "Yes, I'm coming," answered the 10-year-old lazily. When Melinda's mom requested her help in planting peas, she groaned. Why did she always have to be working? Ever since school was out, her mother kept her busy from morning until night. Well, almost. She did have some time to read and play and do whatever she wanted now and then, but she had to help her mother much of the time. The early May sun felt good on Melinda's back as she worked, but she couldn't keep from grumbling. "Why are we planting so many peas?" she asked. "Just think of all the hoeing we will have to do. Then we will have to break our backs picking the peas, and I can already feel how my thumb is going to hurt from shelling them. Last year it got sore and red when we had 2 bushels to shell in one day." "Melinda," her mother said, her voice sounding firm and a little sad. She had tried many times to break her daughter's habit of grumbling. "Let's be thankful that we can raise food to eat. Instead of thinking about all the work that goes with gardening, I like to think of what we will get from it." Melinda had to agree. Fresh vegetables from the garden were a treat, but she could not enjoy the long hours of hard work that came before they could have those vegetables. The day came when the peas had to be hoed for the first time. Melinda helped, and she did not grumble. However, by the time the garden had been hoed, the second and third times, she grumbled a lot. Each day seemed to be warmer than the day before. Melinda could not forget how nice it would be to curl up under the shade tree with a book, or go for a walk. "Mother, the weeds are growing faster than any of the other things," Melinda grumbled again one forenoon while they were working in the garden. "I wish they would stop growing this very minute." "If the weeds stopped growing, so would everything else in the garden," her mother said. "I wouldn't care," Melinda muttered to herself. But she didn't say it loud. She knew better than letting Mother hear her talk like that. But right then she was too warm and too tired and too upset to keep herself from thinking the things she was not allowed to say out loud. That day, as Melinda grumbled to herself, she had no idea that her wish would come true. The weeds didn't stop in 1 minute, but they did stop growing. For a whole week there was no rain. Her dad worried that if it didn't rain soon, their crops would suffer. It has been dry at this time of the year before, but the rain came soon enough to save at least part of the crop, said Melinda's mother hopefully. "The garden is drying up. I would water it, but where would I start in such a big garden? Besides, if it stays dry all summer, we'll have to save, or the well will go dry." One day, Melinda remembered that they had not hoed the garden for a long time. She decided to go see if there were any weeds. She could not believe what she saw. The cabbage plants that had looked so promising lay flat on the ground. The peas were turning yellow at the stems. The potatoes and tomato plants were drooping. The ground was dry and dusty, just like the road. A feeling of sadness and dread filled her heart. "Mother, did you see the garden? The peas and tomatoes and everything look sick." "They are suffering from the dry weather," Mother answered. "It hasn't been this dry for years." Another week passed without rain, and then another. When it was time to harvest the peas, there were none to harvest. Melinda's mother had to find creative ways to make the food stretch. There wasn't feed for their livestock. With no yard to care for or garden to hoe and no vegetables to can, Melinda had plenty of free time, but she didn't enjoy it. Even though her parents did not complain about the weather, Melinda sensed that they were concerned. How were they going to make ends meet if they had to buy so much food for themselves and the livestock? Then one evening, after an extra warm day, thunderclouds stood in the west. Melinda watched them from her window before she went to bed. She got an uneasy feeling. Would they have a storm? Would it really rain? Sometime during the night, Melinda awoke and heard rain. The drops were beating down on the roof. Melinda was filled with gladness. The next morning, when the family got up, it was still raining. The grass was a little green already. All that week, showers came, bringing a miracle Melinda could hardly believe. Some of the plants that had looked brown and dead turned green and started to grow. Others did not. As soon as the ground dried off, her family went into the garden. They pulled out the dead plants and put in new seeds, hoping to have enough time in the season to get some vegetables. Melinda worked with her mother and did not complain once. The dry summer had cured Melinda of her habitual grumbling. She had learned that when there was no work on the farm or in the garden, there was no harvest. And when there was no harvest, there was nothing to eat. She understood now what her mother meant when she told her to be thankful that they had work to do.